Good afternoon, in fact, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Live at the Waterhole. It is Wednesday, the 8th of October. It's 11 o'clock here in Southern Africa, at least. And it's time to go on another odyssey across all of our cameras. Now, we've started in Safari Hook, in what looks to be a very windy day. And I believe that momentarily ago, if that's the very poor phrasing, but there was a lion seen here, so I think our zoomies are just scanning to see whether we can get any visual of it. Apparently it was removed by an elephant, and we're just trying to see whether we can still pick him up. But if you are just joining us, thank you very much. Remember, this is live and interactive. We love hearing from you. Please remember to send in your questions and your comments. We love hearing from our regular viewers and especially from our new viewers. If you are new to this, my name is Ben Coley, and for the next 2 hours, we will be monitoring many cameras that we have access to and hopefully showing you some interesting behavior. For now, it seems that we are showing you a vehicle, which leads me to think that the lion in question is somewhere behind this bank of grass and other vegetation. But maybe we're lucky if the elephant that was chasing it around has moved off. I see no sign of it. Perhaps the lion decides to come back for another drink. That'd be pretty good. The last time I did a live waterhole, we in fact saw a lion down by Olifants River as well. Not something we see all that often just because of the time of the show. Lions, of course, being predominantly nocturnal in their activities. But as you can see, it's a relatively cool and overcast day in most of Southern Africa today. The weather is definitely turning. We are coming into our rainy season. We've had a little smattering of rain over the last few days, which has been great to settle some of the dust. And already, particularly in this area, there is a little wash of green. Looks like somebody spray painted some areas as those little shoots of grass just needed a gentle soaking, and already they are starting to respond, which makes my heart very happy because I've been seeing a lot of rather hungry looking browsers and grazers over the last month or so. So great to know that they are going to be getting some renewed sustenance soon. Scanning, hopefully, but I'm assuming the lion is just behind this little line of Papanis and whatever those things are. A bit difficult to see in the camera. Looks like some giant cockle spurs or some form of alien vegetation, perhaps. But I see we've had a few greetings. Ellie saying welcome to the Wild Earth team and to myself, and thanking me for being your host. Ellie, it is an absolute pleasure. I always enjoy being a part of this. I will be here today and I think tomorrow as well. And then again, some more Live at the Waterhole sessions next week. And then I'm very excited to say that on the 20th, I am heading into Sandringham for 4 or 5 days. So very excited to go and explore that new area. I had a couple of days there last month, but by no means saw all of the reserve or to explore some of those beautiful drainage lines and riverbeds, and it will be very interesting to see if that's responded to the little bit of rain that we've had and more that may or may not be forecast between now and then. Hello to Mercedes Bean as well, greeting myself and the crew and all of our fellow chatters. A happy wet waterhole Wednesday, you say, Mercedes Bean. Absolutely, there is a chance of rain today. We've had some thunder and lightning, not anything torrential yet. We've had sort of 5 or 6 mils here and there, but every little helps, particularly this time of year. And hello, Lenny, as well, who is also joining us. Oh, it's rather frustrating knowing that there is most likely a lion somewhere come back into shot. But this is the best part of it. We often have a conversation, and I think I speak for a lot of guides, that whilst viewing and watching these animals is an incredible privilege and an incredible experience, the excitement of looking and hoping to find something is often just as enjoyable, if not more so, than actually finding it. The sense of achievement, the sense of excitement and anticipation and the hope that you might see something unusual is always good. Ah, there's an elephant. Hello, boy. Were you the one who chased away our lion? If you did, we fully understand why, but there's plenty of space here. I'm sure you could have tolerated the lion for a little bit longer. Looking rather content with his waterhole. You can see how dry and dusty it is, particularly in the wind. It must be such a relief to come in and soak one's frame in some nice cooling water. A queue of springbok. Of course, elephants and lions, never good friends. Lions known as king of the jungle, or king of the savannah, I suppose we should say out here, but it's not true, unfortunately. These guys rule all. There isn't a lion in the land that will stand its ground against a rampaging elephant. Seen it many, many times and had many sightings, ruined to some extent, but also exciting sightings with elephants chasing lions around. If that does ever happen, make sure you give yourself plenty of space because it can get rather chaotic at times. You certainly don't want an agitated elephant to suddenly change tact and take out its frustration on you as with a vehicle in the sighting. And it can end very badly. I remember one horrible sighting. It was one of those, amazing sightings, but one that I don't enjoy recalling when I was working at Sabi Sabi, where a herd of elephants chased a pride of lions around after dark, and regretfully, one of the young cubs, probably about 6 months old, had its back broken in the exchange and obviously didn't make it. But that was very unpleasant to be a part of and to see, but all part of the circle of life and how these animals interact, and that's how ecosystems stay together, of course, all these interactions between organisms. Everything is linked together, and there are many ways, both positive and negative, that they impact on one another. But it's so important for the health of the ecosystem as a whole. Stephanie Grunewald, how nasty of you to chirp me the way you just have, which I will regale people with. After we've moved over to Tau, we will obviously keep an eye to see whether this lion emerges again. But let's go check in at Badikwe and Tau. What a beautiful scene. Waterbuck, zebras, impalas, wildebeest, spoonbills, elephants, all happening up at Tau. So it's definitely Groeneveld. Well, firstly, I'm very happy that you are happy that I will be back at Sandringham. I think it's on the 20th. I'll have to check my calendar. And thank you for reminding me that there are no Tessabe like in Mabulla. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I was at Mabulla a few months ago and had a little bit of a verbal slip, shall we say. My mind was wandering, and we saw a Tessabe, and I was trying to explain why this red hartebeest looked somewhat unusual and why its horns didn't look the same. And I was coming up with all sorts of wonderful explanations for it until it was pointed out to me that it was indeed a Tessabe, and I ate large portions of humble pie and will not make that mistake again, he says, hopefully. So thank you, Stephanie, for reminding me and everybody of that. But there are no Tessabe that I'm aware of at Sandringham, at least, so I shouldn't have to worry too much about that. I'm far more comfortable in the Lowveld. Of course, that's where I have spent the majority of my 20 years or so within this incredible industry. And we don't see Tissapee very often here. Occasionally up in the northern part of Kruger, have bumped into a few sort of north of Punda Maria or around Punda Maria, Shinguetsi, Pafuri. There is a small population of Tissapee, which is for those of you who don't know, is a type of antelope, a fairly nondescript brownish antelope. But always special to see, reputed to be one of the fastest of the antelopes, but I believe this is unsubstantiated and may well be just a little bit of guiding folklore. Jake, you're asking, will we see more or less animals at the waterhole as the rains start? Impossible to say, Jake. Animals will always come down and take opportunities to drink from large bodies of water. Oh, there's a croc moving in the foreground. But of course, once the rains do come and there is the vegetation responds, the animals will be under less water stress. The herbivores will be getting far more moisture from what they are eating, just like these waterbuck are taking advantage of this sort of aquatic grasses, things that are growing within the water itself. And once we get some heavy rains, there will be puddles and the seasonal pans will fill, and the animals have no problems drinking from fairly muddy water, but elephants will always come and drink from the cleanest water source that they can find. But those seasonal pans are also a good thing. They um, dissolve a lot of the minerals and the nutrients which have been kept in the soil. And that's also good for the body as well. Boosts the immune systems, gets important minerals and things into the body. We often see animals practicing geophagia of eating soil because there's things like potassium and calcium and salts that are contained within the soils that the animals want. And if they can get dissolved into the water, that will also benefit the animals.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
Would you like to know what an elephant's favorite food is? You could ask me questions like that in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive from the heart of Africa. Over here. Watch Safari Live and connect with nature.
Some ellies that we're approaching now.
The light on her as well is absolutely gorgeous.
So we are going to enjoy the rest of this sunset.
Wow, 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 this is absolutely crazy.
And thank you for joining us. For myself and Cam, we will see you next time.
Catherine, you're saying nice to see the bush vegetation springing back to life. Yeah, it's always a wonderful time of the year, and it's incredible how quickly it happens. It just takes one little half decent soaking, and within 4 or 5 days, you can see it all happening. It's actually come at the perfect time. We've seen a lot of the acacias have been blossoming of late. The giraffe have been having a field day, obviously doing their bits in inadvertent pollination at the same time. But it's ideal. A lot of the trees have put a lot of energy into producing flowers and everything now, and they will be eagerly sipping up all of those nutrients which are now available in the soil. I mean, a lot of the things that are the perennial species which have been lying dormant will now be becoming active. And say we can just see, particularly where I am, obviously depends on different areas, but just say the little green flush. You can just see it there behind those impalas. As I say, it looks like someone's just sort of spray painted the soil with a little green wash. So, Jake, back to your question, will we see more or less animals? It's difficult to say, Jake, to be honest, but I would say generally speaking, you can expect to see less because of particularly once those seasonal pans fill. But it is always worth popping past any waterholes because you never know what you might find there. Right, I think we are going to roll the dice at Serendella. Let's go have a look and see what's happening at that waterhole. You can see indeed that's just up the road from me where I sit at the moment, thorny bush in a direct line from where I am, probably not more than about 50 kilometers away or so, and you can see a relatively overcast and currently quite cool, although it is quite, well, not cool, but the sun is not in, but it's still quite sort of humid and a bit close. Nice to have crippling sunlight, certainly. Melinda, I'm glad you are joining us as well. You're going to enjoy some of these insights. So, and as before, please do send in questions and comments. I see Mel, you sent an interesting question 5 minutes ago or so that I purposely didn't answer immediately because I was waiting for a close up of some elephants, which we've got now. You want to know whether elephants can throw up. I don't know why you are asking such a question. And I don't know is the answer. I have never seen it happen. And from what I know of the digestive system, um, I don't see why they couldn't, but I did a quick online search to try and give you an official answer. And the first two things that popped up were one saying no, they can't, they lack the anatomical capacity to regurgitate food. And then the very next article said that yes, elephants can throw up. So I'm going to sit on the fence on this one, but I don't see, I think it depends on your definition of throwing up, I suppose. If you've got something in the system that isn't supposed to be there, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do that sort of reverse peristalsis and food would get forced up from the stomach. So I'll have to do a little bit more digging and find out. So it seems to be somewhat conflicting on that. I do have a friend who claims that he once saw a rhino vomit, or at least sort of, but again, is it vomiting? Is it coughing up something that was just halfway down the throat? I think a lot of it's going to come down to semantics to some extent. Hello to you as well, Kitty. You're watching from Lesotho. Excellent. So, our neighbouring sort of landlocked area of Lesotho. Always nice to know that we are conversing and affecting people from all over the world. It is one of the things that I particularly enjoy doing this and on the live drives as well. The knowledge that so many people from so many different walks of life are watching us and enjoying these incredible visuals. Family of elephants slowly plodding along, being watched by a hippo. He seems to be very tolerant today. Jake, you're saying that poor hippo needs some new water. Yes, you can see he's only sort of partially submerged at the moment, but it's coming. It is coming, and we're hoping, obviously, for higher than average rainfall would be nice. We say that every year. I have heard forecasts that it might be. Oh, you're going to do a little roll for us, hippo? No, just a little, maybe just checking the other side. Hannah, you're asking, have we ever put, or have they, I assume you mean anybody, put cameras on animals to see what they get up to? Um, I'm sure they have, Hannah. We don't really see much evidence of it here. You do sometimes see things like lions steal people's GoPros that leave them on the road to try and get good footage, to which I have no sympathy. Oh, look, hippo belly. Awesome. I think the problem is they don't stay for very long. You've got to have batteries. It's getting enough power to them, and walking through vegetation and everything else. I don't think they last for very long. It certainly has been done on birds, and it certainly has been done on aquatic animals, fish and whales and dolphins, I believe. But I don't know of any sort of obvious place where you can go and watch it. People do it with their dogs, certainly. It's always very interesting to get the animal's perspective. But I think half the problem is they don't stay in the position that you want them to do for very long. And the big issue is battery life and being able to transmit that image if you want to do it live. And it's a bit nasty if you're going to leave it on there, wait for it to run out of batteries. Where you then going to dart the animal to go and collect your memory card and replace it, because the elephant is probably not going to take too kindly to you fiddling around with its the camera that you've placed on the top of its head, or whatever the animal may be. But I agree, where it does happen, it's a very, very interesting perspective. But very cool to see our hippo doing a little bit of a roll. You saw his lovely pink belly. Oh, these elephants slowly milling around. It looks as if they have quenched their thirst for now. Maybe time for a little bit of a dust bath before disappearing back into the vegetation. But let's head up to East Africa and Kenya and check in at Oldonyo. Lovely to see some zebras and a giraffe towering above everybody. Looks like a young male giraffe. Considering his options for a drink. Sizwe, you're saying elephants trample past the waterholes. How do those trails change the soil and plant life around them? Sizwe, you're quite right, and the key word you've used there is trampling. Thankfully, they use the same paths, so that's why game trails are established. It compacts the soil there. Things don't really grow on those areas. So it does have a detrimental effect, but the nice thing is that generally speaking, animals out in the wild walk in single file. So they all follow the same game paths and they keep those game paths open. That sort of forms a path of least resistance. If you're an animal walking through the vegetation, would you prefer to go crashing through all of these viciously armored acacias and spike thorns and all sorts of other things that we have, sicklebush? And if you are a cat, for example, you don't particularly want to get wet in the long grass. There are ticks, there are parasites, there are pitfalls, little holes that you might trip over in. So it makes sense to keep using those same trails, and that's what keeps them open. But it doesn't particularly assist in the soil quality because everything gets compressed and trampled. The one benefit that it could do is that animals do have a tendency to defecate whilst they are walking. So those game trails do get quite a boost in terms of fertilizer being produced by the animals. But it's, say, not uncommon to see those elephant and hippo paths relatively devoid of vegetation. Lovely to see some oryx as well. These look like fringe-eared oryxes. Oryxes. You get the besa, or the besa, never quite sure how to say it, and the fringe-eared oryx, which look very, very similar, but you can see these ones on the tips of their ears have got those black tufty bits, which leads me to assume that these are fringe-eared oryx, but I believe we do get both of them occurring in this area.
This is an unbelievable afternoon.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Do you want to know why impala are the most common antelope we find here in the Kruger National Park? You can ask me questions like this in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live. Connect with nature.
Oh, she didn't catch it.
Come on, Tommy! Watch this, we're about to see a kill.
You can see how close he is from where I am.
I agree, Catherine. It's definitely not the norm to not have an elephant or a group of bulls. I have no doubt that they'll rock up. But of course, with the times of Live the Waterhole having changed recently and the seasons changing, it will be interesting to see if there is a change in terms of the animals that do come down to drink at certain times. Of course, only a month or two ago, Live at the Waterhole was going out at about 12 o'clock, 12:30. We're now going live a little bit earlier, 11 o'clock. So it's going to be interesting to see. And obviously, I'm sure the environmental factors will also play a role. As you can see, it's looking a lot greener up there now. Perhaps the elephants are getting a little bit more vegetation from what they're drinking. I'm not sure how much rain there has been up there, but if there are seasonal pans, maybe there are other opportunities for the elephants to gather water, but they know that this is fresh pumped water, so I have no doubt that they will be back. Pair of rather well-groomed warthogs, these. Look like their skin is in nice condition, but still both look relatively young. But lovely swept back manes that they've got, both of them. Prepared for their little stint on camera today. Wildlife lady, you're saying that the water level has gone down a little bit at Oldonio? So yeah, maybe there have been lots of thirsty animals. Maybe the elephants have been already, and that they've had an effect on that water level. But for those of you who don't know, this one is an artificially maintained waterhole. There is an inflow pipe that delivers fresh water, just a trickle flow, just to keep it constantly stocked up. It's a very, very important resource for many animals in this area. There are no perennial rivers in the surrounding area that I'm aware of, so this waterhole does provide water for many, many animals in this area. Nathan, you say you'd love to see a giraffe with a long mane. Yeah, I suppose I'd look, but obviously nature has decided that it's more of a little bit of a crew cut down the nape of the neck there of a giraffe. But it would be great to see one with a long flowing mane like a zebra or a horse. I imagine it would get in the way, be rather hard to keep groomed. Although that being said, many of these animals do have long hair, do a remarkable job of keeping them aesthetically pleasing. These lovely oxpeckers just enjoying the view from the rump of this giraffe. Right, I think we're going to head all the way down to, if I heard correctly, Eastern Cape to Mantis Founders Lodge. Check in down there for a while. Ah, there's some slumbering rhinos. Mother and calf, I would assume. Enjoying some of the shadows there, but always watching those ears, hypersensitive to sound, little radar dishes. Look at the way that they are designed, like a curled up leaf of paper, or a curled up leaf even, but a perfect sort of ear trumpet for channeling sound down into those super sensitive eardrums. Youngster look as if he's struggling to find a comfortable position with that long, wide mouth. He's being square-lipped or white rhinoceros, of course. It sort of does act like a little pillow, I suppose. All right, so I think we are going to now head up to the hide and see what's afoot there. Ooh, what have we got here? Something eating something. Turn around, birdie. Let's have a look at you. Who have we got? Ugh, the constant difficulties of identifying brown eagles. Not showing us its best side, I would say at the moment. It certainly looks like feathered legs. Oh, we may never know. And I saw a yellow beak and a bit of a sear, but not really sure from that. Wasn't convinced that the feathers were particularly bushy right the way down to the base of the legs. Might go with a lesser spotted eagle, perhaps. Thought it had quite skinny lower legs, but hard to say from that little view. Nor can I see what it was eating. Looked like something small, maybe a little rodent of some description that it had caught. And I'm assuming that is a somewhat immobile hippopotamus. Yes, there we go. Let's have flashbacks to the never-ending story of the enormous tortoise. I'm trying to remember, Morag? Was that her name? That Atreyu has to go to figure out how to save the world. So just to remember this great dome and then this head appearing out of the swamps. Childhood classic from the 80s, The Never-Ending Story. If you've never watched it, definitely have a look. It's got racing snails and rock eaters and all sorts of fun stuff in there. I'm showing my age. Otherwise, all seems to be fairly quiet up in Hwangi. Not a mammal in sight out of the water. Unusual. But as you said, Jake, we were talking, Jake, you never know what you're going to see at a waterhole. You might see everything like at Badikwe, where it was absolutely pumping with diversity. And then you come here and there is nothing. But that's the beauty of the unscripted nature of the bush. It's what we keep coming back for. And it's why we love it, because you just don't know what you're going to see. You can see how this soil is all being compacted, particularly as we get close to the clean water there. And you can see how nothing is really growing here. And as you get further and further away, there is more. It's one of the reasons why having lots of water holes is not such a good idea. It does need to be managed. Otherwise, if it is the only water in the area, then it can decimate the area in terms of plant diversity and vegetation, soil quality. Right, we are going to go somewhere else. I didn't quite catch where, but let's go have a look. Speaking of chelonians, we have got some terrapins at King's Camp. Now, marsh or serrated hinged. The never-ending attempts to identify terrapins. I'm going to go probably marsh, just looking at the fact that they are quite shallow domed. They're not, it's quite flat. Particularly the one on the right, and I don't see an obvious hinge at the moment. But the number of hours that I've spent trying to figure out which terrapin is which, it's one of those ones that never seems to stick. There are little differences in the scales and things around the face and the shape of the nose, but I'm never 100% sure. One on the left has quite a sort of a ridged shell, quite interesting, unless that is just stuff that's been deposited onto the shell. Sandra, I see we're obviously going back to the rhinos. You're asking whether we ever see any extra bush growth around rhino middens. Do you know what, Sandra? You sent that question through, and I've thought about it for a little bit, and I cannot specifically recall ever noticing that the vegetation was in any better condition around rhino middens, despite the fact that there is all that good stuff being put into the soil. Maybe just because it's on the surface. Yes, the males break up their dung, scrape their feet through it, but perhaps not putting enough into the soil for it to make a great difference. But it's an interesting point. So now I think about it, you would expect there to be far greater opportunity for things to grow with all those nutrients. You certainly do see it, elephant dung, you see things sprouting out of it from the seeds. Termite mounds, the ultimate nutrient hotspot. They are a really good benchmark, and you can often be driving around, particularly if you go to an area that's quite badly encroached by something like red bush willows, for example. You can see that most of them are the same height because they all started growing at around about the same time when the seeds were given access to all the nutrients and the sunlight, probably because of overgrazing from previous utilization as farmland. And then you'll see the ones around termite mounds are noticeably taller because they've got better access to all the good stuff the termites are producing. The way those tunnels allow circulation of oxygen and nitrogen through the soils, it's easier for the roots to get down to the water table that the termites are also accessing. Lots of good nutrition in there from dying termites and the decomposition of the food that the termites are bringing back. So that's not unusual to see, and you'll often see, I like to call them like little fairy circles around termite mounds, very, very evident in the winter months, because you'll get better quality grazing grasses growing on the area that the mound under the ground expands to. And beyond that, the soil is not subject to all that good work the termites are doing. So you get different grasses there, and you'll often find that the animals will really crop the grass on and around termite mounds, and there'll be an obvious boundary showing you the extent of the nest underneath the surface.
This unfolds in front of you.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
Would you like to know at what age a buffalo calf gets its horns? These are questions that you can ask me in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature, live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure. Every month, something wild lands in your inbox. From rare sightings and behind-the-scenes secrets to expert stories, seasonal changes, and exclusive travel opportunities, the Wild Earth Journal is your free monthly mailer, packed with the magic of the wild straight from the field. It's fun, it's free, it's full of surprises. Sign up now on the Wild Earth website.
To try and grab it. It's a bit like putting some cream on your dog's nose or something and seeing it struggle to get to it. Okay, but lovely to catch up with some of the smaller members of the ecosystem, but let's try our hand at another one of our cameras. Oh, we've got up to Lemtor. Fantastic. Well, this is one of my favourite cameras. Always interesting stuff happening here. And lovely to see a line of zebras. Stephen, yes, it is true that terrapins smell bad. Terrapins smell horrific, if I'm honest. You don't ever want to handle a terrapin. It's nothing personal against them, but it's a defense mechanism. They can produce some very foul-smelling scents and deposits if you do pick them up. So, yeah, they're correct. They do stink. I always remember a sighting that I had many years ago of a young male leopard who looked very proud of himself because he'd caught a terrapin and was walking along the river's edge, having just grabbed the thing. And you could kind of see this moment of realization spread over his face as he was sort of processing what was going on. And he suddenly just sort of stopped, looked horrified, spat out the terrapin and sort of licked his lips excessively and left the terrapin there. I can't remember whether the terrapin survived or not, but even the leopard decided that it was too unpleasant to have in its mouth. But that is exactly why terrapins do it. It's a great predation defense. Hannah, we're asking whether zebra stripes look different at night or in different light, and do they use this to their that's the flailing roof, or do they use this to their advantage? And I was just wondering whether as far as I know, there hasn't been any papers or anything published on whether or not they look different under UV lights. There has been some publicity recently that certain animals do look different under ultraviolet light, which other animals can see. We obviously cannot see into that spectrum. But I don't know of anything specific for zebras, so I don't think they would look different under different light. But do they use the stripes to their advantage? Absolutely. From the dazzling sort of confusion effect that it gives to predators, certainly. Not just in terms of making it very difficult for a predator to isolate an individual for pursuing purposes, but also making it a little bit harder for a chasing predator to predict speed and trajectory for that sort of interception point if they were trying to cut off that animal. So yeah, but I don't know of any specific studies to be done to see whether there's any changes in terms of UV, but other zebras and lions and things don't really see in UV light, so I don't really see the ecological benefit of that being the case. Of course, we do see that very regularly in birds and insects, but we know that they do have the relevant visual receptor cells to be able to see in ultraviolet light, see the world very differently than we do. A lot of flowers react differently. Even things like spider webs glow under UV light. Scorpions, we know, glow under UV lights, but not zebras to my knowledge. Ascari, you're wanting to know whether turtles are exclusively vegetarian. I'm assuming. Oh, it sounds like we're going to quickly head back to the hides and see if we can identify that eagle. He has returned, he or she. Let's go and have a quick look. Ascari, I'll come back to your question in a moment. Maybe we can figure out what it's got. Oh, you know what that is? I think that's looking more like a kite now that I look at it. Yeah, I'd say that's a yellow-billed kite. That's a very yellow beak. But quite fluffy legs for a kite, I have to say. But you can see down closer to the tarsi, to the talons, there isn't any hair or any feathers there. But certainly the rest of it looks rather kite-like. We know that the kites have returned, certainly. Been seeing those for about a month now at least. Usually one of the first birds to come back for the summer.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. Would you like to know the difference between a male and a female wildebeest? You can ask me questions like this in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
The bush, full of beauty, wonder, and absolute chaos. And now, all that madness has its own show. It's called a Wild Bush Week. The countdown of the most outrageous, heart-stopping, and sometimes downright ridiculous wildlife moments of the week. Lions throwing their weight around. Hyenas gate-crashing the buffet. Leopards doing, well, leopardy things. Each week, it's a fresh reel of safari gold. A mix of drama,
She's just got an impala, everybody.
danger, and a healthy dose of laughter. So, if you fancy a highlight show with bite, and I don't mean just the animals, tune in to a Wild Bush Week. You bring the tea, and we'll bring the tusks, tails, and teeth.
Very deliberate footfall that it has. You can kind of see that little fork in the tail as well, which is very diagnostic of the yellow-billed kite in flight. You can kind of see a triangular shape in the tail even when it's at rest. Not sure if there has been any rain up in Zim, but perhaps if there has been, maybe it's prompted some insects to come to the surface. And of course, as and when the termite emergences begin, that will be a great food source for everything. I've seen lions and hyenas licking up termites, the winged alates when they come out. Quite normal to see lots and lots of birds in that area, including eagles. It's a great food resource. But yeah, possibly just if there has even been a little pitter-pattering of rain, just those vibrations on the soil might have been enough to bring some insects close to the surface, and we see birds taking advantage of that. I remember when I was in New Zealand, down on a place called Ulva Island, I watched a South Island robin vibrating his feet incredibly fast, like almost imperceptibly fast, to try and attract insects to the surface. But they do waddle, Mandy, I think I agree. Yeah, but that's always nice to see a raptor on the deck. But I think we're going to go and look at some birds at. What do we have here? A European bee eater? Maybe. Difficult to tell in this light, but definitely a bee eater of some description. Quite like it if they turned around. Did hear the first European bee eaters of the season last week down here in South Africa. Those swallow-tailed bee eaters, maybe looking at the shape of the tail. You can see a distinctive fork there as well. strangely not seeing very much colour. I'm not sure if it's just the light, or maybe these are some youngsters that haven't quite developed. But I do see certainly a yellow chin, which matches the European bee eater, but also the swallowtail as well. Oh, he's got something. No, he's got himself a little, it looks like a scarlet dropwing, or one of the dropwings. He's in beating it just to stun it. They'll often do that with stinging insects in order to get rid of the sting itself. But wow, that didn't last very long. I hope it was stunned, otherwise that's going to wriggle and tickle inside her. I think I'm still going to. No, there was some brownish colour on the wings there. Trying to remember what swallow-tailed bee-eaters look like with their wings outstretched. They're normally a little bit greener. Looks like a coppery wash on the back of the neck there. Okay, our zoomies are also going with swallow-tailed. So it certainly makes sense looking at the shape of the tail. You can see that distinctive fork, and Europeans normally have sort of little tail streamers as well. So as normal, stick with your gut. I've only seen swallow-tailed bee-eaters down here in South Africa once or twice, but they do occur down here, but we don't see them very regularly. But I'm assuming that these are some youngsters, because a swallowtail is normally much, much greener. It's quite a vibrant green colour that they have over the majority of their body, which I'm not really seeing here. So I'm going to go with a juvenile or an immature swallowtail bee eater, or some just not particularly good light. Erica, you say sounds like some animals have got superpowers. Um, Absolutely, Erica. They've all got superpowers. They can pretty much every animal out there. The more you read and you really sort of get past just what you get in your standard guiding book, go and start reading some papers and some specific research that has been done, and you come up with all these incredible things that these animals are capable of. Specific adaptations that they have, be it to do with their eyes or their ears or how they deal with certain situations. I was reading something the other day about some lizard that sneezes salty snot. I'm sorry to put it in such crude terms, but it's one of the ways, because they eat a lot of. I think it's in where possibly in North America, but they're sort of desert-dwelling lizards, and they eat a lot of very, very salty vegetation, and they deal with that salt by sneezing out this sort of mucus, which is very, very rich, and you often in salts, and they often have this sort of white deposit around the nostrils, just where the salt has been. Well, the liquid has evaporated away, and you're just left with that sort of salty deposit. Birds have got salt glands. I mean, the list is endless, Erica. Every animal is its own superhero, I have no doubt. Jeanette Pickford from KZN. I'm glad you're enjoying the morning and that you're enjoying some of the interpretations. We've seen some lovely things already, nice diversity. Lovely to see a few birds as well. These swallowtail bee eaters may have moved off, but it's always worth hanging around a little bit, particularly if you enjoy your photography. Bee eaters do have favourite perches, and they will often fly off into the air, try and hawk an insect, and then return to that same perch. No, but it seems they may have better things to do now. Let's go back up to Huangi and the hide. Ah, and a troop of baboons that have come down to have a drink. I suppose looking at primates, it would be the correct thing to do to pass on. I'm not sure what the right word is, but obviously the sadness that we've all felt with the passing of Dr. Jane Goodall recently. I watched something online last night about her sort of last words and one of the last interviews that she gave, and hearing her story and how she very sort of poignantly put it that there's Jane Goodall the person. Oh, that one's favouring its arm. Jane Goodall the person and Jane Goodall the icon, and how they are different people but the same, and just hearing some of the stories and her opinions, and the way that her sort of face lit up when she was discussing certain individuals from her past and animal encounters that she'd had. Of course, I don't believe she did any work with baboons, but primates in general offer us such a unique insight, and I think we all enjoy watching primates because we can relate to them, the way they behave in some way. But the world has indeed lost an icon, and all of the wonderful things that she did. And it was just interesting to hear some of her discussions. Like she said, she would go to a hotel, but she chooses not to use the bin bags in the bins, because if one room has got 4 bin bags, 4 plastic bin liners, and there are 100 rooms in the hotel, think how much plastic that is on a daily basis. So she would rather use a cardboard receptacle or something. And she made a big point of saying how all of us, just by making little tiny differences en masse, can actually have such a beneficial effect on Mother Nature and the planet Earth that we stay on. It was quite a moving thing that I watched. And I certainly thank her for all of the great things that she has done for Africa and the environment. I think it was the Dalai Lama who was once quoted as saying, "If you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping in a room with a mosquito," which I always remember. I think that's such a clever way of putting it. Poking around at the mud there again, I wonder if there's some insects that have been drawn to the surface. Little arthropods. Macy, you're asking, do baboons ever fish? I don't know, Macy, but I don't see, in the dry season, if there was a pool of stranded catfish that often flop around, and you see storks and fish eagles and things having a field day. I have never actually seen a baboon grabbing a fish, but we do know that they are omnivorous. They will eat meat as well, so I don't see why they wouldn't eat fish. I don't know if it's ever been recorded. Not something that I've ever witnessed, Macy, but they're very opportunistic. So I wouldn't be surprised, but not that I've ever seen. I think there's a few questions that I've missed. Ascari, you were asking whether turtles are exclusively vegetarian a little bit earlier. I think, well, the first thing I need to know is what you mean by turtle, because, again, semantics and common names. So when you say turtle, I assume a sea-water-based reptile, or chelonian, to give them their proper word. Because we would on land, it's tortoises, freshwater terrapins, seawater turtles. But I also know that turtle is used in the States as a sort of a a general blanket term for that sort of thing. Generally speaking, tortoises are herbivores. Oh, hello, Mr. Grey Heron. What have you got in your sights? Terrapins are carnivorous, and turtles, I believe, predominantly herbivorous, but can also be omnivorous depending on the species, eating things like crabs and shrimps and crustaceans. So, a very mixed answer, Ascari. Sorry, I can't give you a specific. This grey heron intently watching something. You can see the very slow, deliberate movement of the feet, not wanting to create too many ripples in the water, give away its position. Are we going to see a lightning strike? Ooh. You can see that kink in the neck, designed for exactly this purpose, to propel that beak forward, and often they will literally just stab the fish with those upper and lower mandibles as opposed to grabbing it in the mouth. Like a bayonet. Drawing that neck back like a snake about to strike? I don't think so. My gut is that the fish or whatever it was looking at, or the frog, has moved slightly. Yeah, seems to have moved away. Lucy, you're hoping the baboons don't mess up the herons fishing. I think they won't. They're on the other side of the water there, so I don't think it will be too much of a concern. The heron's got this nice little sort of inflow, this nice little almost like an oxbow lake that's being created there. But a nice sheltered area for the fish to hang out in. Great hunting spot.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. I grew up mostly here in the Lowveld. I grew up here pretty much on the southern side of Kruger National Park, a place called Marlow Park, for most of my years. Something surprising about myself, I did play drums in a band for many years. Best sighting I've presented, we found Palumba in the two cubs, and the cubs are just way big.
And that's it for this morning's drive.
She's just got an impala, everybody.
And we're going to be heading out and seeing what animals we can find.
one. And about time we saw some elephants. Jackson, that's a good question, and one that all I can do is speculate for you. You want to know whether, as you put in inverted commas, intelligent animals like baboons and elephants bully and mess with other animals just for their amusement. Jackson, honestly, I think they probably do because they can, and it's entertaining for them to some extent, not always in a malicious way. But yeah, I think to some extent they do amuse themselves. They have the ability to process what they're doing. They could choose not to do it. And it's one of life's great delights to see a young elephant calf chasing other things around close to water, particularly chasing birds around, chasing antelopes around, spraying water at storks and herons. I've seen them do that before. So yeah, I think they probably do it for amusement to some extent. But the deeper sort of seated idea, it is of course all education, learning how to deal with confrontation, building confidence for interactions in the future, particularly for young males. It's very important to be confident, body language. You'll have a far better chance of breeding opportunities if you are more confident than perhaps your size dictates. So, yes, it's probably done for fun, but I'm sure it all works together to help build the animal's confidence and its experience. Must be quite warm up in Botswana. You can kind of see the shimmer of all the heat, I assume, reflecting off that soil, that hard ground just getting baked by the sun and reflecting the heat back up, creating that mirage effect. And Camelthorne is in a little bit of a bowl, create a bit of a sun trap. So going back to an earlier question, Stephen, you asked, do zebras have the strongest kick out of all African animals? I've also heard that, Stephen, that they are capable of delivering, and I know definitely they can deliver a very, very hard kick, enough to shatter a lion's skull. Do they have the strongest kick out of all animals? I doubt it. I would imagine that a giraffe kick would probably do more damage to a zebra kick. However, I am not willing to take one for the team and see if that is true. But I've certainly heard mentioned that zebras have the strongest kick of all African animals, but my money might be on a giraffe, perhaps of similar size or within the equine family, it may be true. It would certainly make sense to adapt or to have evolved a very strong kick to deal with lions, which generally will chase and jump up from the rear quarters to protect oneself. Okay, but these elephants all look rather docile. One at the back having a bit of a butt scratch as well. But I think we are going to head up to the Mara and have a look at some hippos. The diversity of coloration that we can see there. Of course, that is unlikely to be sunburn before somebody worries that is in fact the case. Remember, hippos have that superpower again of specialized glands within the skin to produce hippocyric acid and norhippocyric acid, which coats the skin and then oxidizes with the atmosphere to create this pinkish effect. That helps to act as a natural sunblock and particularly a antibacterial wash for the skin. You can see the very pink one on the far right at the moment is absolutely riddled with slashes and lacerations, which is quite normal for hippos with those super sharp teeth. But you never see a hippo with festering wounds. The skin creates its own natural antibiotic, which I always think is amazing if you think of the quality of water that hippos are often subjected to during the dry season, just these muddy quagmire puddles that they defecate in, they urinate in, packed in like sardines. It must be a breeding ground for bacteria and things in there, but they never seem to succumb to any of these bacterial infections, despite all those open wounds. It's lovely to see the hippos out and about to give you a full appreciation of their size and bulk. Jared, just saying it sounds like an Aztec death whistle in the background. I'm strangely not getting any ambient sound on this camera, so I will have to take your word for it, Jared. Not that I know what an Aztec death whistle sounds like. It sounds horrific. But yeah, I'll take your word for it. Unfortunately, if it is a bird that you can hear, my knowledge of East African birds is not particularly good. That being said, I hope, if all goes according to plan, to be heading up to Tanzania at the end of the month, up towards the southern end of the Serengeti, going up there to do some astronomy work with one of the lodges. And I hope that there'll be an opportunity to get out on a drive and I can add to my East African bird list. Added a couple to my list here on my home estate recently. I finally found the elusive cutthroat finch. Oh, I've just noticed there's a waterbuck outside my window as well. Oh, I can hear some. Yes, I have some ambient sound now. I'm afraid I have no idea what that noise was, Jared. I think I heard what you were talking about. Oh, wow, yes, that is a terrifying noise. I could not tell you what that is, I'm afraid. If anyone does know, by all means, let us know. Sounds like this sort of a... Wow. Apparently one of the Zoomies is saying it's just the wind. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better because I'm thinking is that some sort of death throes of a dove? But maybe it is the wind just whistling over the microphone. But I'm intrigued to know now what an Aztec death whistle is. I shall have to check that. But whilst we are up in East Africa and up in Kenya at the Mara, it's a good opportunity just to remind you about our black leopard safari opportunity that we have for you. So between the 9th and the 18th of June, we have the ability to take 6 people, and you will be guided by the wonderful Steve Falconbridge. And it's a chance to hopefully, if you're lucky, see that rare black leopard in Laikipia's remote wilderness. Stay at some wonderful places, see some incredible game viewing regardless, I'm sure, but only 6 places available. So if that sounds like the sort of thing you want to be involved in, which I'm sure it is, opportunity to come up and look for a black leopard, then do get in touch with the details you can see on the screen. Something that I personally would love to do. I've never seen a melanistic leopard. Definitely would love to do so. Oh, somebody's just sent me some information on an Aztec death whistle. Wow, it goes under another name which I'm going to attempt for amusement's sakes to pronounce. I've never seen a word like it. Ehekachictli, ehekachictli, type of whistle used by the Mexican people. High-pitched shrieking sound most commonly used to scare off people or animals. Well, there you go. That's a hippo. That sound I know. It's a rather eerie, sinister noise, isn't it? All right, well, lovely to see the hippos out of the water and discuss some Aztec death whistles, certainly. Let's head to another one of our cameras, but stay in East Africa. So finch hattens and some more elephants enjoying plentiful supply of water. That little discussion about death whistles made me think of Chichen Itza in South America, the Mayan temple, which I've never been myself, but I've seen footage of it, which when people clap their hands, it creates a sound that mimics the call of a bird called a quetzal, which is a sacred bird out there. It's a very interesting acoustic phenomenon. Of course, lots of astronomical links to Chichen Itza as well. The way in which it's designed, you may know it from the very famous shadow of what looks like a snake on the equinoxes that seems to slither down the steps and join the top to the bottom, creating a large snake, and snakes often.
Oh, wow. Oh, even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word. She's stalking the hyena now. leopard, hyena, lion all together in one shot. Oh. Ooh. This is action-packed. My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. The best driver at Wild Earth, it is me. I believe I'm the best driver. I think so, because I've... Best part of my job, I say, is just to try and look out for these animals, track them down. I love tracking animals. I love looking for, you know, fresh tracks, and if you can find them, it's just at the moment of accomplishment. If I wasn't a presenter for Wild Earth, I would be the drummer for AC/DC.
Every week, the wilderness delivers.
And that's why we're here.
Drama, chaos, crimes, humour. All moments you'll never forget. We've counted them down, argued about them, and finally picked the very best. From rare sightings to classic bush showdowns, this is nature's weekly highlight reel. Sharp facts, bad jokes, and the wildest top 5 you'll see this side of the savannah. It's not just a show, it's a wild bush week.
Can you hear that? The wild is calling.
And that's why we love your questions and comments coming in as well, because sometimes you never know what question to ask. And we often get asked questions by you wonderful people that are such obvious questions. But if you've never thought to ask that question, you've never considered it. And it's a great way to exercise the brain, certainly. Sandy, you say you love the colour of these elephants. Yeah, they are. Some lighter greys, some darker greys, some little dusty veneer on that one at the back as well. This colour of these large animals normally dictated by the soil type and the mineral content of said soil in the area that they've been, but it is a way you can sort of track where they've been or come from. Okay, sorry everybody, we obviously had a little bit of an issue with the camera there, so we've zoomed back to Mahali Mzuri to look at an acacia, it seems. Iconic African trees. All right, let's head down to Olifants, see what's happening down by the river here in South Africa. Yeah, I looked like there was possibly a raptor in that tree, but I didn't get a close enough look. But we do have some crocs sunning themselves here at Olifants River. I see, Alyssa, back to our conversation about things kicking. You were saying you didn't think elephants could kick that hard, but you recently saw a video of one kicking a honey badger. Much harder than you think with that slow kick. I also saw that video. I'm half amazed that the honey badger was able to survive it, but also not surprised because honey badgers are bulletproof. Yeah, I certainly would not want to be kicked by an elephant. It may be, as you say, a sort of a slow motion kick, but it's got an awful lot of weight behind it. Yeah, I hope to never have to experience it. There's some white-fronted bee-eaters in the background by the sounds of it. That reep, reep, reep. The camera's not playing ball today, sorry everybody. We've gone back to Camelthorne in Bots, where this elephant has, or does know, where the inflow pipe is, helping himself to some nice fresh water. And having a little bit of a shower by the looks of it. Thinking if you're going to take the clean water straight out of the pipe, rather drink it than spray it on yourself. That does seem like a bit of a waste. Yes, that's better. Enjoy the water. So he's blowing bubbles down there, probably struggling just to get the tip of the trunk around the pipe. Make sure he's not wasting any of that water. Lola, you're saying when waterholes dry up, elephants have to tough it out, and how does their gut biology let them handle scarce food? Well, Lola, elephants are pretty adept at finding enough moisture content in what they are eating, and they will, of course, travel huge distances to find water if needs be. I'm not sure in terms of the specific biological interactions in their gut. They have the enlarged cecum, which is where the bacterial fermentation takes place. But they will extract a lot of moisture still from what they're eating, even when it looks as if there's nothing around. They'll eat the cambium layer of living tissue of trees, which contains the phloem, which is that sort of sugary water produced by leaves. Of course, they are well known for pushing over trees to get to the roots. Oh, wow, look at this. At Onguma, we've got a couple of black-backed jackals having a drink. This is an unusual time to see jackals coming down for a drink. How spectacular. So, yeah, the elephants will feed on the roots where those deciduous trees are storing nutrients during the dry season. They'll also dig up tubers and bulbs and things that contain a lot of moisture. But how the stomach itself, in terms of the fermentation process, is able to deal with that lack of moisture, that I'm not really qualified to say, unfortunately, but they will find water if they have to even traverse over massive distances. Obviously, in areas where they've been restricted, that's why we produce artificial waterholes for them. They're unable to migrate to find water, then we are obliged, from a reserve management perspective, to supply them with enough. But how awesome is this to see a couple of black-backed jackals? Chunky one on the left here. I wonder if it's a pregnant female, perhaps. It's not too far off denning time for jackals. Interesting, the springbok not bothered at all. So unlikely to be too concerned by jackals, more likely to be hunting birds and rodents and lagomorphs and things, rabbits and hares. Let's just have a look at this other jackal if it changes orientation. I'd like to have a look at that belly. Yeah, maybe it doesn't look quite so big. Maybe it was just the angle. Well, that was very special. But let's head over to Jabalani quickly. Sounds like we have another carnivore. We have a hyena enjoying the spa. I love this about hyenas. It's not unusual to see them just flopped down in the water. Amazed more animals don't do it. Having a drink, having a little bit of a bath and a bathe. Lenny, I'm glad you enjoyed the blackback jackals. Yeah, that was unexpected and a lovely, brief but very, very cool sighting. And so now a spotted hyena enjoying the facilities. Oh, sorry, it seems our cameras don't want to allow us with that one. We'll keep an eye on that and hopefully we can head back. But over to Safari Hook in Namibia with a beautiful herd of gemsbok and some springbok and a rogue zebra doing his best to blend in. Nudging each other out of the way to get access to the water.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
Wildlife spectacle on planet Earth. We'll see you there.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you will not miss out. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7, and you can even rewind if you have missed out on something. Enjoy the behind-the-scenes video clips, as well as fireside chat, or get the early offers on our travel experiences. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
The sheer diversity and number of animals that seem to be quite happy in such rugged terrain. I mean, Namibia, for me, is one of the most beautiful countries in the world. But you would have seen an animal, you think, sure whether that's where I'd want to spend all my time. Dry, harsh, rocky, hot conditions most of the time. But supports a surprising biomass. Definitely a young zebra, this one. I'd say it's fully grown. Ah, there's some more coming in. Maybe he or she was just thirstier than the rest. Maybe it was some youthful exuberance, a little bit of confidence. He didn't mind that the Gemsbok were having a drink, and now there's a bit more space. The rest have charged in and somewhat trapped this one, using it as bait. Erica, that's nicely put. You're saying the muted colours here make it look extra dreamy. Yes, it is rather ethereal, isn't it? With the dust creating a bit of a haze and the soft lighting. Puff of dust moving across in the background there. Oh. What bothered you? Right there, another springbok in the background. I wonder whether maybe they just got a jump from these other ones appearing out of the long grass. I'm sure we were all hoping that maybe there was a predator coming down for a drink. And these ones going, why are you all so scared? Always worth checking though. Okay, this was where a lion was seen on the camera just before we went live with the show, so definitely worth checking just in case that's what gave everybody a bit of a fright, but no sign if it was. Beth, I don't think there's any crocs in the dam here. Sort of in this area of Namibia, there are crocs, but more restricted to the rivers themselves and the Caprivi area. So I don't think that there are crocs in this dam, but say I will always assume that there are, if I'm honest. Just because somebody says there isn't one, I will not believe them. And I'm certainly not going to go swimming in any body of water in southern Africa if I can't see everything that's going on in there. Everybody does look a little bit on edge. Perhaps there is still a lion in the area with all this wind. Maybe it's just wafting the scent of lion. You never know. But say around waterholes in particular, there is a sort of an unspoken truce, particularly during the daytime. Most of these animals know that lions are less likely to be hunting during this time, and even if they do see one, the lion is going to casually stroll down to the water and have a drink, not being an obvious threat. And the animals know that, they can see it, they're far more relaxed with their presence, and it wouldn't be unusual to have a whole bunch of antelope drinking over here and a lion having a drink on the other side of the dam. They'll keep a close eye on it. But as long as they can see it, and the lion is not eliciting obvious hunting behaviour, then everything should carry on as normal. believe the lion was seen to the right of where these animals are, sort of in the direction they are looking, if I remember the geography from when we started and when we saw that vehicle. And watching the dust earlier, the wind is coming from the right. So not exactly ideal hunting opportunity for a lion. Okay, well, we'll obviously keep a close eye on this camera just in case a tawny cat appears, but let's go try that hyena again at Jabalani. Oh, just in time, looks like spar time is over. Come out from behind the bush, thank you. Well-trained hyena. Come on, a bit further left. Hannah, you're asking why do big herds turn on predators considering they outnumber them so much? They do in some cases, Hannah. Buffalo well known for what we call mobbing behaviour and joining ranks and chasing off potential predators. You don't see it very much in the smaller antelope species, the impalas and the zebras. So the zebra's quite capable of a swift kick. But it's one of the hunting strategies of lions, particularly with buffalo, is they will just charge into the herd and scatter the herd and then try and take advantage of the mayhem before the herd is able to regroup, form ranks, and chase the predator off. The lions need to move quickly because buffalo well known for coming back to rescue their brethren if they are being attacked. I think it would be fairly futile for a group of 30 or so impala. However, with all those horns, you think if they did work strategically together, they probably could do an awful lot of damage. But I guess it's risk-reward and lack of evolutionary experience to do so. Hyena's teasing us a little bit, isn't it? Find a nice shady spot and just have a lie down. I'm slightly unsure of what it's doing. So, did I want to get out of the water? Should I go back? Haunting call of the emerald-spotted wood dove.
Let's go and take a look. See you out there.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Real, you say the best kind of roadblock?
Absolutely. Look at this.
Hello, girls. We are here with a male leopard.
Vion, you're asking why hyenas are more closely related to cats than to dogs, despite their sort of morphology. I agree they look more like dogs than cats. I actually think they look rather ursine, almost sort of bear-like at times as well. Hyenas are in their own family, separated from both dogs and cats. Dogs is Canidae, cats are Felidae, hyenas are Hyaenidae. There are only four members in that family: spotted and brown hyena, then the striped hyena, and the odd one out, if we can call it that, the aardwolf. In terms of why they are considered, and I believe you are correct, to be more closely related, taxonomically speaking, to cats than dogs, I'm not 100% sure. If I'm honest, I'm having a quick check now. They fall under the suborder of Feliformia, which are cat-like carnivores, which is different from Caniformia, which is the dog-like carnivores. But yeah, sort of specifically, other than just saying taxonomically or genetically, apparently there have been some studies that shown similar types of antibodies in hyenas and felines as opposed to dogs. But I can't really give you any more information than that, to be honest. I think there's one in the middle, just lifting that front foot, taking some weight off. It's lovely little communication going on. Just very soft, gentle touches with the trunks at the back. These two old boys probably know each other very, very well, swapping some old war stories. You can see everybody very relaxed and docile at the moment. Yep, discussion over. These two on the right are almost just having a bit of a standing doze, twitching the trunk occasionally, but you can just see the energy they're giving off is one of contentment and relaxation. Very emotive animals. I would never say it's easy to know what the animal's thinking, but you can look at those elephants and see that they are currently at least very, very relaxed. And why not? They've got clean water, catching up with some old friends. Well, a brave pied wagtail getting very close to that elephant's front foot. Imagine what an elephant must look like to a pied wagtail. Kelly, you're saying these zebras are extra clean. You know, I actually thought that as well. I wondered if there's been some rain recently because you often see them looking a little bit dusty. But that was the first thing I thought as well when we arrived at this camera, that they do look very contrasty, black and white, as if they've had a little bit of a dousing of late. Grant just saying such discipline not to just smack everything when you're so big. Yeah, I'm sure, Grant, but as we were saying, I forget who it was who asked of whether I think elephants just harass other animals for fun. I'm sure they do for at some points, particularly when they're younger and they're struggling to control those emotions and those hormones. Similar to teenagers, really. Young elephant bulls will often come and flex their muscles with vehicles, and they're the ones who are generally going to be chasing other animals around. Adults better at conserving their energy and controlling their emotions. Okay, I think we're going to spend the last couple of minutes of today's show down at Founders Mantis Lodge in the Eastern Cape. Maybe see if those rhinos are still hanging around. Ah, they're up and about. So EJ also saying those elephants were debating whether to let the zebras have a drink or not. Yeah, maybe they were deciding, shall we? Yeah, go on then. Why not? This lovely little blacksmith lapwing in the foreground as well. Well, I think there's a third rhino. You can just see movement underneath the belly of the one on the right. Yeah, there we go. Oxpecker in tow. I wonder if this lapwing is considering a spot for a ground nest as well. Oh, there's a little rhino. Hello, little one. Yeah, good spot in there, quite well protected. It's that little amphitheatre of rocks around it. Oh, there's another rhino too. They're all popping up. Well, we're down to the last minute of the show, everybody, I'm afraid. But thank you so much all for joining me and for all of your questions and comments, as always. It is always so nice to interact with you directly. And I think you'll all agree it's been a wonderful show. We've had beautiful diversity, huge swathes of animals up at Madikwe. We've seen some crocs, the black-backed jackal, lovely view of that yellow-billed kite at the Hyde. And also nice to see a hyena having a swim. Zebras, giraffes, elephants, gemsboks, all sorts going on. But don't forget to join the rest of the crew for the Sunset Safari. But thanks so much for joining us. And I will see you all again tomorrow.